Welcome to our show tonight. I know it's Wednesday. We're a day early, but we accommodate how we can. Welcome to our show, Get to Know Your Neighbor. I'm your host, Cameron Geesaman with Geesaman Homes. Our goal, I think I see this every week, is to bring awareness of awesome neighbors and business owners of fishers and to share their stories with you. As always, please don't forget to click the like button. Hopefully maybe post an emoji or make a comment. If you have a question for our guest tonight, feel free to ask a question. I have been wanting to interview our guest, Curt Tappendorf, owner of Schoolhouse 7 Cafe, for really since from day one. The cafe has become a new favorite for our family. We aren't huge coffee drinkers per se. I actually drink decaf. But what we do love is to treat the boys from time to time as they have great gluten-free options and even a lot of specialty drinks. We went there when they had their Star Wars event, which was really fun. I love getting their email, letting me know of what new drinks are hitting their menu. And even just the other day, I got a message that, oh my gosh, they're including 3 different flavored mimosas that will be available on the weekend. Girls, any of you that are watching, if you want to join me for a little mimosa treat over the weekend, I would love that. I love that they kept the aesthetic of the original Schoolhouse, which was built in 1901, and then added some meeting areas upstairs. And I really love that they really, thought of the residents of Fishers and just didn't tear it down and put something new up, but they kept kind of the history and the style. Anyways, I can't wait to learn more. And so let's please welcome Curt Tappendorf. I'm gonna figure it out. Okay. So I forgot to say a couple things because I read that. So first off, I'm going to go here and we're going to hit the live and we're going to share it because I didn't do that. So let's see. I can hear it. We're going to share it. And then Curt, while I'm sharing it, actually, can you share what the giveaway is for everyone?
Our giveaway today is, we got a t-shirt, Schoolhouse 7 Cafe t-shirt. Yay. And then we have a travel mug, which this is the old version of the travel mug, but we have a newer one out right now that's taller and more stout. So we've got that. And then we also have a $10 gift card.
Is it same color?
The same color, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's white.
We'll get into this, right, Curt? We'll figure it out.
We're ready. That's right.
Well, first off, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I really, from day one, I sat down after I decided I was going to do this and wrote down. And one of the things that was funny, I was like, I don't know who the owners are. I love Schoolhouse, but who are the owners? And I'm like trying to search. And of course, a couple of my friends were like, oh, I know Curt. And so that helped. So I appreciate you joining our little show.
Glad to be on. Appreciate the offer.
It's fun. Well, we'll jump into the questions here because I know a lot of people have their questions too. I've had a couple of people comment on my Instagram posts. So because it is a Fishers show and you're a Fishers business, I've asked this question many different ways, but I have literally shortened the question down to 2 simple words. Why Fishers?
All right. Well, that's an easy question, tough to answer, but I'll do my best. My wife and I, actually, we were engaged back in 2003. We moved from Iowa. And my current job right now is working at Simon Property View. I'm a civil engineer. And Simon is what brought us here from Iowa. And so when we moved here, we lived in corporate housing for 6 months. And we lived at apartments in Allisonville Road and 96th Street.
Okay.
And so we kind of got to lay the land. And my wife's best friend lived in Noblesville. And so we were kind of looking at houses in Noblesville. And so we started to say, well, it's Noblesville to downtown Indy. It's kind of far away. My wife is a school teacher, so she was looking for a job in the Hamilton County School District, Hamilton Southeastern School District. And she ended up getting a job at Sand Creek Elementary. That's where she started. And so that's there in Fishers. And so we started to look at, okay, what's the kind of a good spot between Fishers and downtown. And so we ended up picking Fishers because that was closer for her, further for me. But Fishers at that time, 2003, we bought a house in Sandstone Crossing, and that's located at Brook School Road on 116th Street. And at that time, going from 69 to Brook School Road, it was a 2-lane road up and down. It was out in the middle of nowhere. There was Marsh Supermarket right there that my wife loves to this day, and disappointed that it's gone. But Olear Road didn't exist, right? I mean, the whole commercial area out there didn't exist. And so we decided to just live out there. We found a great house. We didn't have any kids at that time. And so we said, let's land here, close to her school, and a little bit of a commute for me downtown, but love the area.
It has changed.
It has changed quite a bit, yes.
Yes, you were in some great neighborhoods.
Yeah, so Sandstone Crossings, great neighborhood. We live now in Avalon Springs, and so we've got a great neighbors here, and about a mile and a half from the schoolhouse. So that's a nice 4-minute drive, so I can get there real quick.
Do you ride your bike?
I ride my bike, I run, whatever I need to do to get there. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Even more, they're building a ton out there. So it's all kind of building up, and there's more and more neighborhoods. Of course, that's why they're building some of the elementary schools, but it's nice to have. I'm glad that you have something out that direction, because when you head that direction, there's nothing out there.
That's correct.
So it's great. It's so awesome. Well, can you tell us about kind of the journey you took after kind of deciding the property? And originally the property was just an address, right? Nobody really, I think they knew it was a schoolhouse, but can you tell us about that journey?
Yes, it's quite a journey. It started about 5 years ago, actually. And I've got 4 kids. My oldest her name's Brianna. She's 15 now. So when she was a 5th grader at HIJH, which is right across the street from the schoolhouse, her and I, at that time, we were breakfast people. Her and I would always go out for breakfast. And so I would take her to school a lot, have breakfast first, then drop her off at school. And, I told her back in 5th grade, and she reminds me of this quite a bit, that, at that time, she's like, I told her when she was in 5th grade, I said, Brianna, this is a place where somewhere around this corner, you and I are going to have breakfast here before you graduate from HIJH. And I had no idea at that time what it was going to be, but I knew that corner. I love that corner. And so I was actually looking at the property across the street from where the schoolhouse is. There's 3.5 acres right there.
Right.
And, so I was looking at that property because I wanted to build some spec development, multi-tenant development. And so I had several meetings with the city and was going down that path. And as we got to it, just couldn't make the numbers work. And so I kind of put that on hold. And so what happened after that then is this was October of 2017, so fast forward 2 years, and I went to a parent-teacher conference at HIJH for my daughter Brianna. And as I was pulling into the school, I noticed a realtor was putting a sign in the yard outside the schoolhouse. And at that time, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a house. Everything was overgrown. I had no idea what the history was of it. And so I was like, interesting. So I love the corner, no idea what the building's about, but I'm interested. So I sat through the parent-teacher conference. Afterwards, drove back by the sign, saw the number on the sign, called the realtor that night, and put an offer on it. Got an accepted offer that night, and then closed a month later. And so that was October, so we closed November of 17. And so at that time, I told my wife, hey, we bought a schoolhouse, and she's like, what? She had no idea, one of those things, ask for forgiveness, right? So that's what I did there. And so I work for Simon Property Group, so we're landlords. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do, is just be the landlord of the property and find a tenant that could, occupy the space. And so I advertised it as such. And so I put a sign in the yard all winter long during 2017. I went in there and started demoing the house, and there was tons and tons of trash I took out of the place just to gut it. And as I got into it, I'm like, I started to peel back some of the drywall, some of the plaster, and realized, it's beautiful brick in there, and the ceiling choice and all that stuff. There was a lot of history associated with it. And so shortly after I bought it, I went over to HIJH and I talked to Principal Mankin and told me, hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm a neighbor across the street. And he's like, hey, he says, I got a binder here that a gentleman dropped off for me when we first opened up HIJH back in 2000 and I forgot what it was, 2010 maybe. I forgot when it actually opened up. But anyway, it's from George Underwood. And George Underwood was a graduate of the Schoolhouse in 1940. And he prepared a binder that had what the school was like during his days back in the 30s. He had a copy of his diploma, his report card, pictures of his school kids. And so in that binder was the cell phone number. And so I'm like, well, let me give him a call and see if, And so I called him up. Sure enough, he answers. And he probably talked to me for about an hour about the Schoolhouse and his memories there and, how much it meant to him and how excited he is that I bought it and he'd love to help out. And so I said, sure. So why don't you come down and, let's walk the property and see what it's, see what your memories were. And Cameron, I guess George Underwood's a big reason why it's open today. And he walked the property with me and he showed me every square foot of that property that had some history to it. He showed me where home plate was when they would play baseball. He showed me where the girls' outhouse was, which was right next to the school. And then the boys' outhouse was 100 yards away. And as I tore down some of the walls, I couldn't figure out what different things were in there. And some of the brick on the wall where we had the fireplace today, there was some like soot and some ashes and stuff that was in the brick, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And what he told me is that was where the hot stove was. They had a hot stove on both sides.
Okay. Yeah.
So, he said when kids during the wintertime, when kids were bad, they would sit in the middle of the schoolhouse, and then when they were good, they sat close to the fire. He said every morning at 5 a.m. the teacher would come in and put fire in the fire stove and the fireplace and on both sides, and it was their responsibility when they closed up to make sure the fire was out. And he just had so many stories to tell me, and it's important for me to capture that history. And it was another fantastic story. I'm kind of going off here in tangents. So George Underwood and Charles Welchel. So Charles Welchel, Welchel Springs, across the street. So we had those two gentlemen come over to the schoolhouse when we first opened up back in August of 2019. And we had an elementary class from Southeastern Elementary walk down, and they sat down in front of our little, what we call the playground area, which is the green space between the drive-through and the front door. And they sat down there and blankets and stuff, and they listened to George and Charles Welchel talk about their history there. And one of the things I remember from that conversation was that George was like, well, when home plate was out there, nobody ever hit the schoolhouse from that home plate. And Charles says, no, George, that's not true. And I'm going to forget the name, but he says, Ronnie Thompson, when he was in 7th grade, he was the only one that hit the building from home plate. He remembered the name of a guy from 80 years ago from hitting a home run or hitting the actual building. And so those two gentlemen had unbelievable memories. George Underwood unfortunately left us here in April this year, but we had a lot of good times. And George ended up, he would come down once a month and he would walk the side building and he'd be like, he said, Curt, he says, there's got to be more chalkboards on that wall, because when you walk in the cafe, on the left side, there's the menu.
Yeah.
So we've got the chalkboard menus there, and then we've got our cabinets, which we kind of made chalkboard cabinets. And he's like, I want to see more chalkboards on that side, because that whole wall was full of chalkboards. And so we tried to collect as much history as we could from those two gentlemen and to try to capture it within the space. And if you look around, a lot of the the wood that covers the front island, all that is the original floorboards. And then behind the prep area, kind of like your back wall there, that's all the original floorboards from the schoolhouse that we kept. And then upstairs, we've got a 14-foot long table.
It's
Yes. So we had, that was the original floor joist from the schoolhouse. So we repurposed a lot of the wood there within the schoolhouse to capture all that, so we can kind of help tell the story and keep the history alive. And so,
really cool.
so that was kind of going off your question, not kind of going back to your question. So back in November of 18, or 17, that's when we closed. And then, so all winter and summer, we started to kind of work on how we were going to end up getting a tenant in there. And so we advertised it just as a general, for lease. And so we started to get a lot of responses from attorneys. We got a lot of responses from daycare providers, boutique salons, and that would have been kind of an easy thing for me to do, but it just wasn't. It just didn't really get me going. And so I was like,
Did you remember that you told your daughter that you would take her?
I did, and that was part of my drive. With this whole thing. Weirdly enough, I committed that to her, and this was an opportunity for me to make that happen. And so I was like, okay, deep down, I knew something would happen with that. And so I was like, you know what? This doesn't sound right. I think we need to market this more as a cafe type place. And so I started to get on the drawing board. I'm a civil engineer by trade, so I started to look at the property, and it's kind of a weird shaped property. So I tried to say, okay, we got 2 trees on both sides of the schoolhouse. I really want to keep those. How can I get a drive-through in here? So I made that work, and then tried to maximize the parking. Love to have more parking, but we're kind of confined with the site that we have.
Great job.
And so we were able to keep the 2 trees, get a drive-through in there. And so I marketed it as a drive-through cafe. And so it was July of 18. And so we got several different offers from people that were interested in renting it out. But because of where it's located, it's kind of out in boonies right now. There's not a whole lot around it, right? But probably not for long. And trying to convert it from a residential zoning to commercial, right? I had to bring it all up to commercial standards. So there was a lot of costs associated with that. I just couldn't get the rent numbers to work. And so it was July of 18 where I met a gentleman from Carmel, him and his wife, and they came over, and they were going to look at the place to do a coffee shop. And I'm sitting there and I'm walking the husband and wife around, and the wife's asking a bunch of questions and the husband's not saying a word. And I'm like, well, he thinks he's probably wasting his time here, and he's not interested. And
right.
So towards the end of the conversation, the husband's like, wow. I'm like, wow, what? And he told me, he says, if I were 10 years younger, he says, I'd probably take this project on. He says, let me tell you something. He says, the best person to carry out a vision is a visionary himself. And when he told me those words, that's, what got my gut out and said, he's absolutely right. He told me what I didn't want to hear, that I needed to do this project. And it turned into a passion project. And so I wasn't going to take any shortcuts, and I wanted to do it the right way. And, like you said earlier on, it was when this was rezoned back in 2007, 2006, it was rezoned to, this was supposed to be torn down or at least moved to a place a mile away.
Right.
It's like a big gas station.
Yeah.
And then behind it's going to be a grocery store and then some out parcels. And so we were fortunate enough to kind of, put a lot of time and sweat and energy into it and money to renovate it to be what it is today. And so right before my daughter did graduate, her and I, it wasn't opened up because we opened up in August of 2019.
Okay.
But we had breakfast. We sat down on the concrete floor after it was poured, and we got breakfast from a local place and came in and they said, here we are. It's we're here to have breakfast, and we got it done. So I stayed true to my word for that. And so
that's so,
yeah.
She'll remember that voice.
I think she will. Yeah.
And I think that is true with a lot of people. Like, you had this vision, you might not have really maybe known it when you made the offer, but I think the guy was right. You had an idea, and somebody else wouldn't have done it the way that you did it.
Yeah, and that's true. And part of the other help too was our partners are Britt and Julie Killinger, and so how they got involved was when we decided July of eight. Well, Sarah always corrects me on this. When I decided July of 18 we were going to do a coffee shop, and told her that we were going to do it. Um, it was a lot of me going in there, after hours when I got home from work, a lot of weekends spent out there. We hired a great general contractor, Central Construction Group. His name's Brian Altmans and John Barrett. They did a great job with a lot of the tenant fit out and stuff, and was real happy with them. And so we did a lot of work over the winter time, and it was March of 2019 that I was going down this path of we're going to do this. I don't know how we're going to do it. My wife and I took out a home equity line of credit to try to figure out how we're going to pay the contractor and get things to work out. And there was an article in Current and Fishers that we were in, and kind of talked about kind of the vision and what we were planning to do. And Britt stopped by on a Sunday morning, and he's like, "Hey, Curt," and that was what's so great about this corner is so many people would drive by and they would pull over and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Everyone's curious to see what you're doing. And so a lot of my weekends were spent not really working, but more socializing with people and kind of telling what I was doing. And so Britt stopped by, and I thought this was that kind of conversation. He's like, "Hey, I really want to help." And I was like, "I said, great." I said, "There's a wheelbarrow over there. There's a shovel." I said, "Whatever you want to do. I got plenty of dirt piles we got to move." And he's like, "No," he says, "I'd like to help." She's financially. He says, I read about you, and I love your vision, and I want to be part of it." And so 2 weeks later, we became partners, and the rest is history. And so it's been a great partnership, and we both share the same vision. And he's got a great niche as far as what he does, and I've got what I'm doing, and so it's a great partnership. And Julie, his wife, does a great job. She's in there a lot now, and she's a retired teacher, so she's got the passion with the schoolhouse as well, and so it's great.
I love that it's with your wife, teacher, and then her. Like it just keeps going. What has kind of been your favorite part of transforming it? And before you say your answer, I do want to tell people that when you walk in, you feel, you kind of feel like it's that schoolhouse. And then there's the upstairs. And I remember when I was there, I walked in and I looked at your stairs going up. And I took many pictures of those stairs, and then came home and told my husband, "Hey, I went to Schoolhouse 7. 1, amazing. 2, I think I need you to go look at their stairs because we're going to do those to our stairs." And he looked at me like, "I think you might be crazy." And I'm like, "No, we're going to pull up the carpet." And the manager at the time, right, which I think she's still there, told me that you guys burned the wood and then just kind of put a sealer on them. And I told Adam, and so one day we took a blowtorch to the stairs. So thank you for the inspiration.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. So what was your favorite part of that whole process? That's my favorite part.
Oh boy. There were so many favorite parts of it. The upstairs, when it was a one-room schoolhouse, the upstairs didn't exist.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that when we bought it, it was the upstairs. There were 2 bedrooms up there and a bathroom. And so we obviously tore all that down. But probably the favorite part of transforming it, Cameron, was probably trying to keep as much of the existing in place as possible. And trying to keep it as old school as possible. So like all the exterior, we had to go in there, and every single brick on both the inside and outside, we took an electric brush to it and scraped every single brick, retuck pointed every single grout joint in the place, and we didn't cut any corners, and so we wanted to do this right. And so I think the favorite part of it is that, and then also finding the history. And one of the things that really captured me early on was when I went to the Indiana Historical Society to see if this was a protected building. And they told me no, but then they gave me a picture from 1901 of the very first class from that school. And so that picture we have hung up there on the first floor, which is fantastic. And so we tried to so we took that picture, and so when we redid the front doors and the windows, we took that picture and used that as, hey, we want this same look. And so that was pretty cool. And then one of the things that we'll eventually do is there is a bell tower in that picture as well. The schoolhouse was hit by a tornado in the late 40s.
Okay.
And at that time, that's when the bell tower was torn down. And so we do have a bell that's upstairs on the second floor that we'll eventually try to rebuild that bell tower to bring that back into the picture.
Where is it?
The bell?
Yeah.
It's upstairs on the floor right now.
Okay.
We call it George's study, which is George Underwood. George's study is a little side room outside from that community table.
That's
to the left. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and even some of the small groups, and even like some of the small groups within our church, or even like some business small groups have used that room.
Cool.
Because I've seen like, hey, we're going to be at Schoolhouse at the upstairs room. I don't know if they've said it was the George room, but so, and it's just neat. One of the first times I was there, you were still finishing the upstairs. It was like right at the beginning. The upstairs hadn't been finished. I think they were even still working on some of the outside because they had it blocked off. Like you can't go outside because it's actually still unsafe at that point.
Right.
And so I remember, and I was like, I have to come back and I have to see this all done. And it was just here's the thing. Being in real estate, I love when a client, or even from a business perspective, when you can walk into a place and it has the aesthetic of what it used to be, because I know what it takes to get that. It's not easy. It's not cheap. But it's so neat. It's nostalgic. You walk in and you feel like, that's what I love. Like you feel like you're in a schoolhouse.
That's good to know.
And so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So many people would have just torn it down.
That would have been the easy thing to do. And there were several times during this camera that I was like, what am I doing? And, it seemed like every time I would take a step forward, there were 3 steps I was taking back. And there'd be little things every now and then that told me to keep going. And George Underwood, he was one of those guys. He said, hey, I love what you're doing. Keep going. And so.
So what kind of response did you get from the community when you announced the plans to make it a cafe?
A lot of positive responses, especially from Britton Falls. Britton Falls is right up the street. It's a Del Webb community. There's about 1,400 residents there. Yep. And they were all excited about it. We get very good traffic from Del Webb, or from Britton Falls. The neighboring subdivisions around there, same thing. And so people just enjoyed the fact that it was something close by that they didn't have to go on the west side of Fishers for. And so there's a lot of residential, and as you well know, there's a lot of growth out in that area. And so it's nice to have something close by that they can come to and grab a quick cup of coffee and go on their way.
I love Falls. We have quite a few people here, and it's an older community. That it is such a great place that they can go to. It's close, it's convenient, it kind of has the history, so I could totally see it being, you think of the other communities, but I love that you kind of pinpointed that one, because I think that that's a great idea. Like, I feel like now I need to call my clients and be like, oh, don't forget to take your friends to Schoolhouse right around the corner.
Yes.
So making some phone calls tomorrow. I didn't even think about that. It's interesting, that you kind of put that together. Our neighbor's mom, we just closed on a house in there, and she goes by there because she comes to our house. We live in Anderson Hall, and so she comes by there to come see her kids. I'm not going to say daily, but almost every day, and she loves stopping in there. So.
Oh, great! Thank you.
So what would you say? I have some things that I want to say, but what do you feel like sets Schoolhouse 7 apart from other cafes in the area other than it's out in the middle of nowhere?
I would say probably the fact that it's unique. There's a history to it. It wasn't, we didn't build it. The walls were set, and so we had to make everything work within the walls. And that's obviously had some challenges, but we utilize every square inch of that place. And there's storage in that places that you don't even know where there's storage. And so we've maximized the space there. And I think one of the things too is that we do have opportunities for private events. We have the whole upstairs that people can rent out. We do have that 2-level deck, which some people call the treehouse deck, which if you go on the second floor of the deck, it's fantastic. It's a great view of the city. It still looks as it's still, there's still cornfields out there that you can see, which is great. And kind of people feel like they're away from the city. And one of the things that we were staying true to is we want it to be a gathering place. And we want it to be that place where we don't have newspapers, we don't have televisions. We want people to come and sit down with a friend and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And we do have Wi-Fi because people love coming in there and bring out their laptop and doing work. But if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi. But we do have a TV upstairs that people can use for corporate events. If they want to if they have a presentation or something, want to do that. But we don't have cable or anything like that up there. So I think it's that probably what sets us apart is we want to be able to welcome people. In these times right now, you see a lot of the franchise type coffee shops that are keying more on drive-through and kind of reducing the amount of indoor seating and kind of closing the indoor seating. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure people still feel welcome and still feel like they want to come and get away from the craziness of the world and kind of go back to the old times.
I love that. Yeah. I am going to point out a few things myself because what I do love, and I mentioned it in the intro, that you do send out, different emails. I think it was in the middle of the summer. Was it around May 4th? I'm looking at my husband because he went with us. But you did the Star Wars themed drinks. And so, it was one of those afternoons where like, let's take the kids, they can pick out what drink they want. And cause we're huge Star Wars fans. So I like that you're being creative in that way. And it's not just, okay, it's fall, so everything's going to be pumpkin spice. And so it's like thinking outside of the box of that. So who helped you come up with the mimosas? I know this question wasn't on the list, but who came up with the mimosas? And just tell me about it. Can I ask what the three flavors are?
So let me start by saying I take zero credit for any of the drinks. Crystal Klotfelder, our general manager, she is fantastic. She is. I mean, she does all of that stuff, and it comes out, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm kind of like you. When you hear about it, I hear about it.
Oh, okay.
So she does all that, and that's her passion, and she does a fantastic job. She does the drinks of the week. She keeps the spice in the menu, and that's what's fantastic about it is it's not the same menu every single day. And so Crystal and our wonderful staff, they work together to kind of come up with the different concoctions of what tastes the best and they get input from customers. So it's not just our ideas. It's okay. What do you think, Cameron? Or people that come in quite a bit, they kind of get some input from them. So it's really let's all have this be our coffee shop. It's not just our coffee shop. It's the whole area's coffee shop, and the menu's the whole area's coffee shop. And so that kind of goes with the mimosas. And we had a lot of people saying, hey, you guys should do this, and we'd love to have you stay open later. And so when we started hearing that feedback, we're like, okay, one of the ways for us to stay open later would be to do mimosas and then beer and wine. And so we got a lot of people from Del Webb saying we are winers. We love to have wine.
You're doing wine?
So starting next week, breaking news.
Yeah.
We're going to roll out our beer and wine, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you've been in there recently, we're going through kind of a remodel right now to kind of move some equipment around to to make room for the wine refrigerator, and we're going to have 4 taps, beer taps, and we're going to have hard seltzers. We're going to have bottled wine or bottled beer, and then we're also going to have wine. So that's going to start next Thursday.
Oh
and,
my gosh!
So it's going to allow us to stay open till 9 o'clock at night. So for those customers that come in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that do I do coffee? Do I do tea? No, I want a beer. They have that option now. And
I
so,
love that.
Yeah, so we're going to start out kind of slow, and like I said, we haven't really advertised it at all on our Facebook page or anything. We're just kind of keeping it quiet, but yeah, so that's good to know. But we're excited about that, and we're going to kind of work next week with. We're going to next Sunday will be kind of the end of the grand opening week for it. We're going to have My Yellow Rickshaw perform. They're going to come out there on Sunday from 4 to 7. And we got a temporary special permit from the city or from the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission to go out, and we're going to close off the drive-through. And hopefully it's a nice night. People can bring out their lawn chairs or blankets and just sit out there and drink mimosas, coffee, beer, wine, whatever they want, and just come together and have fun.
If you do an event again, or if you on a night like you want someone to come and play, can I plug someone?
Yes, please.
Ryan Allworth.
Yes.
And do you know them?
Yes.
I would love to have them there.
Yes. Ryan is. Yeah, he's fantastic.
I love them, and to have them be close, like they play at Prime 47, but it's in Carmel and it's so far away. And so I'm always telling them, like, can you do something close? And it would be amazing to have it at Schoolhouse since he's from this area. Well, you already know I didn't really do a good.
I don't know him personally. I know Darren Erlewine. Obviously. So yeah. I might give Darren a call here later tonight and say, hey, got something for Ryan.
Yep, I went to high school with Ryan. He was our first guest.
Oh, cool.
He sat in front of me because he was A and I was a B for our last name in etymology. And so I've always kind of stayed in contact with him, and he's talented, he's humorous, and he is very talented with music. So he's fun to have like in a crowd like that, right? Like he can play a variety of different types of music. And I think people would like it. So anyways.
Thank you for that recommendation.
I'll come and I'll invite everybody. I love that you added that because, it is kind of hard when you are specific with coffee and tea and stuff. Mm-hmm. I will say, you've done a great job. It's hard for us because we are a gluten-free family to go to some places, and they've always done a great job of like having options and, doing different things, and they know the drinks. Like when I say, is that gluten-free? They know what I'm saying. So
I know that again. That's Crystal, and Chris, I give her all the credit for all that stuff. So she researches all that, and she's to the book with all that stuff. So love that she's there.
She's really good. I like her. I don't know if I pretend like, well, I know her because I see her, but I don't know how much she remembers me. I'm not a obnoxious person asking all these weird questions. So
I bet $1 million she knows you. It's amazing how her name recognition. It's mind-boggling. But
I always forget because I think you also have, and this isn't a question either, but you have like a rewards program, which I don't know. I have to admit, Curt, you might have to tell me what to do with that because I don't know if you actually is that tied to the card? Is it tied? Because I know we have some, but I don't know if I ever can I get points?
So no, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So we have, and this was when the pandemic hit, it totally screwed up our whole business plan, right? So we had to fast forward with an app. So we ended up, because we wanted to have curbside delivery and mobile ordering available. And so we fast tracked 2 years, but we brought back the opportunity for an app. And so we have our own app now in the Apple Store, Schoolhouse 7 Cafe. Our original reward system was tied to a credit card. Now that's gone away. So now it's all tied to your app. And your phone number. So make sure that if you do go in there, you tell them your phone number. It's no longer tied to your credit card. Tell them your phone number, and we want to make sure that you get your rewards.
Rewards.
I'm big on rewards.
Right. Well, when you get the it tells me
Okay.
until rewards.
So then every time you go in, just make sure you show them your phone, your QR code scan. There's a little tablet there when you, if you go in, there's a tablet there. You can just scan your card, and that automatically brings your order up, and it'll track your rewards. And
I have been real lame and just gone through the drive-through.
And you can do that too. Just go drive-through, just show them your phone. They'll take your phone, scan it in on the tablet there in the drive-through, and off you go.
We haven't been there to sit in a while. We've mostly done the drive-through. But I like that it's an option as we go that direction versus the other direction. So on the menu, since she handles all of it, and do you have any requirements, or what is your favorite drink or menu item then?
My favorite drink it's probably the coffee. I mean, I'm a big fan of the coffee. It's Brickhouse coffee. Black. No, I have a coffee traveler with 2 sweet loaves. And Brickhouse Coffee is a local roaster that we use. Jared and Laura Staten are fantastic people. Before we even opened up, we went down and met with those two and saw their operation and loved it, and loved the history that they have, and they're great people. And so we wanted them part of our business, and so Brickhouse Coffee is who we use. A big favorite, probably our best seller, is the Dirty Chais. Dirty chai teas, which is 2 shots of espresso and chai tea, and a lot of people get that. That's probably our best seller. The menu item that I love the most is probably the sausage souffle, right? Because I'm biased. It's called Sally Joe's sausage souffle. My mom is Sally Joe. It's her recipe.
Okay.
Growing up, we had it's bread based. It's bread on the base, and it's got egg, sausage, cheese. It's fantastic, and she would always make that for us a Christmas morning or Thanksgiving morning, kind of the holidays. And so that was one of the things when we started I want this on the menu because it's something that's unique, something that nobody knows about. And so it's one of those things that as people taste it and have it, it's becoming a pretty good seller. So that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Do you, when you haven't had it in a while, do you go and it kind of just brings back the memory?
Yes.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is I need to open a restaurant so I can have all my childhood favorites.
Absolutely.
I'll let my husband know that.
Easy to do. No problem.
He will not.
I'll help you.
Agreement. Let's open a restaurant. He won't agree. I'll just bring my favorite recipes to Crystal, and she can just put them on the menu.
She would probably do that.
So I guess what have you then attributed to kind of the success? Because I have to admit, I don't drive by there very often and see it not busy.
I would say a lot of it's word of mouth, and it's one of the things that myself and Crystal want to make sure Crystal's thing is she wants it to be like a Cheers environment, where everybody knows your name, and you come in and like what you're doing right now is smiling, and that's what it's about. And there's so many cool things, Cameron, that happens there on a daily basis. And when this pandemic hit, one of the first things that one of my best friends ended up saying, hey, he says, I want people to smile. So today, everybody that comes through, I'm buying their meal or their order. So all day, people, as they went through, their meal was comped. And we see at least once a week where people come through and they do what they call a pay it forward train, where people are in the drive-through and they say, I'll pay for the people behind us, and it just keeps going on for an hour, 2 hours, and just a lot of that stuff that just people smiling again, and that's why I love going in there is seeing that. And so a lot of the success is the employees, and they come in and they're the lifeblood. I mean, they make it happen every day, and I can't. I mean, I tried during the pandemic or during the shutdown. We were at home, and man, when I get 2 or 3 orders, I start getting all flustered, and I can't do it. But somehow they can do like 3 different orders at one time, and they know what it is. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. So, the success is all the employees and Crystal.
Yeah. She really does a good job. When you go through, she's always, I don't think I've ever seen her in a bad mood. She's quick. She answers your question. And I've asked some crazy questions, and at some places you get these looks like, seriously, lady? She answers them. She's like, she's good people. And I like the Cheers idea. I need to come up, or I need to connect with you guys at some point, and maybe we come up with like because I'm fine with like purchasing people's like coffees, but like where there's a code or something that they can say, and then I buy their drink or whatever, like to try to do some sort of like fun thing. So I'm going to have to get with you on that. But
yeah, there's some different banks that came in too, and they said, from 10 to 12, we'll just be sitting in the corner, but we want to buy everybody's drinks, so sit in the corner and they kind of see people, the surprised look they get on their face when they get their meal paid for. It's just a lot of fun.
I'm not a bank. But I can buy a coffee here and there. Maybe you call me when we'll flip this around. When the banks come in, or when those
let you know. Yes.
I'll show up. I have no problem with that. What challenges have you had to face with opening up a restaurant? Not to go into COVID and Corona, because we have to do that. But what challenges outside of that have you had to go through, and what successes have you seen with that?
Probably the biggest challenge is the staffing, right? I mean, and that's with any restaurant or any business is the staffing is trying to identify trends, and that's so difficult. And when you have the opportunity we've got mobile ordering now, we have in-person ordering, and we have drive-through, and so that's my dog Wrigley.
I know.
He's my little shadow.
I love
it. So we have 3 different opportunities for a point of sale, and so trying to figure out that, and and turnaround time, and so probably the biggest challenge has been the staffing part of it. Is trying that fine line of when we can identify when the busy times are going to be, and how to do that. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge.
I was talking to my partner. I'm going to try to get on the as well. And I kind of asked him the question because I stopped in to grab something. It's another place I like. I'm just going to have all the places I like on because it's just easy. And he was saying the same thing. Partially, it's hard to find employees because, you can find the high schoolers to a certain extent, but they're restricted on times, right? And so it's like, and then finding the adults that can work, and then being able to have that. So I'm sure that that's a hard challenge. And I at least know that I could say if anybody's looking for a job, that they could, instead of getting a job at Starbucks, maybe they could.
And we've been able to retain a lot of our original employees too, and that's been very nice. And that goes back to just kind of the environment that we try to foster. Is when you come in the door, whatever stresses you had back at home, whatever bad mood you're in, leave it at the door. When you come in, let's just have a good time and make the most of this day. And so we've been able to retain a lot of our employees, and having fun doing it.
I've been known to come in and stay there for 4 hours talking. Okay, so before we get to the giveaway, so if anybody's still on, the giveaway is going to be a t-shirt, a travel mug, and a $10 gift certificate. So thank you so much for offering that up. I'm kind of jealous because I would love all of those things. I even said I needed a t-shirt for tonight. But so we'll get to that here in a second, but I have a question so that people can kind of get ready for the giveaway. You have what looks like solar panels. What are those?
Those are solar panels.
They are.
They are. So one of the things that we did when we first, when we got into it, I'm sorry, what was that?
They look different. So that's why I was like, I've always wanted to know that answer.
Great question. So it's the latest and greatest with the solar panels. So it's what it does is that is what heats all of our hot water, and it's radiant floor heating for our inside. So right now, when we were taking out the flooring, one of the things, because it's all brick building, there's not a whole lot of insulation with brick. So, and being out there, you get a lot of cold winds out there, and it gets very cold on the wintertime. And so what that is it's radiant floor heat. So when we tore out the concrete, or when we tore out the wood floor before we put the concrete floor in, we put in radiant floor heat. So it's these tubes, these PEX lines that run glycol. I don't know all the technical terms for it, but all these PEX tubes throughout the concrete floor, and then pour the concrete on top of it. And so what that does is that ends up heating the downstairs floor as well as the upstairs, because obviously heat rises. And so wintertime, we tried it for the first time last winter, and our bill from November through March was $30. Everything else was done by the sun. So it heats all our hot water, provides us heat in the wintertime, and does a great job doing it. And the thing with radiant floor heat is it's not like forced air. It actually attracts to everything. So like when you sit down on a chair or sit down at a table, that radiant heat actually heats up all of that stuff. And so we're real happy with it. So we kind of wanted to go back with kind of the education part of it too. And so on that, we have a sensor that shows, how it all works. And so we're working with a science teacher over at HIJH and give them a real-time data collection to show them, what it's doing right now, how much heat it's generating, what the temperatures are at different nodes throughout the whole system. So it allows them to kind of educate their science classes on a different type of technology that we're using. So we're trying to engage the schools and that kind of stuff.
I love that. That you do like that. I feel like that's a great question that was a really good answer. Is there any more of those that I should ask?
How much time do you have?
I love that you then turned it into, again, another school thing.
Yeah, it's a good education piece for us too. So it was trying to, it's looking at all different aspects. And again, that was a costly ad. There was some energy credits and stuff that we got from it, but it was a way to incorporate and educate our neighbors next door.
I love that. We have an electric car, and so every time I'm like, I think those are solar panels because they look like it, but they look different than a traditional solar panel, right? And
right.
So, and you don't really, it doesn't say like these are solar panels.
Right. I mean, and that's, I kind of wanted, they had to be located there because they have to face the southeast, right? And so I didn't want it to detract away from the building. And so we kind of put it where it is by the parking lot so that it wouldn't take away from the actual building itself. But people drive by it and they kind of see it, but it doesn't stick out like, oh, these are solar panels, right? So that's good.
If you'd like a electric charger that comes off of that in one spot and just go ahead and put our name, right? Be great. Just a self plug.
You got it.
I love that you really kept the aesthetics, but yet brought in new, but yet didn't change it. You know what I mean? It's like all of those things that make my heart palpitate. Okay. We're going to get to the giveaway because I know people are probably wanting to do that. I see a few people on. We've kind of had ebbed and flowed, which is okay. If we don't get somebody that answers now, I'll probably plug it some on social. So if we get somebody later, I'll connect with you and we'll get that. But as you can see on the bottom as it scrolls, you can win a t-shirt, a mug, and a $10 gift certificate to Schoolhouse 7. The first person who answers, we didn't say the answer. We didn't talk about it.
I don't think we did.
We didn't. Okay. I got to think on this. Maybe somebody will know it. Do you think anybody will know it?
It's a tough one. I don't know.
No.
If they're a Facebook followers, they would.
Ooh, okay. Well, then we'll just say, because I don't know if anybody, because we didn't talk about it, and that's okay. But I knew it because I did research. So somebody just has to do some research. It'll be a later answer. I'm good
There
with
you
that.
go.
So the question is, as the name is Schoolhouse 7, what does the 7 mean in Schoolhouse 7 Cafe? Which I love the answer. You're not going to give the answer right now. We'll let people, I'm going to plug it on social and see if we can get an answer later. So I'm excited about that. So we're going to leave that up for a second. But while we do that, can you kind of tell us where viewers can find you online and or Adam is doing something with my screen. Sorry. He's adding the website. Okay. Where can people find you? We've got one thing now up, but where else can viewers find you?
So our website right there, schoolhouse7.com and schoolhouse7cafe.com. My daughter, Brianna, she's the one that now maintains the website, as well as she does the Facebook posts, she does the Instagram, and she also does those little push notifications that come through. So she's responsible for that. So Instagram and Facebook, just search Schoolhouse 7 Cafe on both Facebook and Instagram, and you'll find us.
Okay. And I get notifications all the time. Great job.
Good. Thank you.
And then you have Facebook. Yeah. Awesome. So if you want to check them out, and I know she posts and stuff, and I don't know how, when you join the membership, is that when you get the emails?
Yes.
Okay. Because I like that. It honestly, it's one of the things that it triggers me. Oh, somebody already answered. See, somebody already knows. Let me go to the comments. It was the number 7 because all the schoolhouses in the county were numbered. I think it was the first number 8, but changed to 7. Yes.
Good job, Katie.
Does Katie know you?
I do not know Katie Kane.
Oh, that's even better. Because sometimes we get family members that answer. Katie, good job. I'm going to get stuff from Curt. I will connect with you and we will get you those free things. Good job, Katie. I'm impressed. I will have to admit, I love my aunt, but she did post, can't wait to go there, and then spelled your name wrong.
Come on, Jackie.
She's known you for a very long time. It's okay. I think she spells my name wrong, and I'm her niece.
That's all right. That's all right.
It happens. She called me last night and just really loved that I was interviewing you. So it was really fun. Oh, Katie read the history last week.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
I really do. I think, I asked you what the success was, and yes, it's word of mouth, but I will give you kudos that not a lot of people really keep the history of Fishers, and I love Fishers and why I did the show, and so I appreciate it. So that's why I think it is also.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we have one more question because we ask every guest, and it's also to help. Sorry, it's also to help me keep the show alive. Which is who do you think we should interview next? I do ask, and I don't think I messaged you in this. I'm getting a piece of paper. I do ask that maybe it could be somebody that you know that you could connect me with, but do you have anybody that you would recommend?
Yes, actually I do. Mary Beth Haas. I don't know if you know Mary Beth Haas. I met with her last week. She is the new owner of Be Local Fishers, and that's a publication that goes out to all new homeowners in the city of Fishers. Whenever they buy a new house, they move to the area, they get this Be Local Fishers, and it talks about all of the Mexican restaurants to go to, all the coffee shops, pizza places. It's got some articles of different people in the area, and so she just became the owner of that, and so we're now a sponsor with her in that, and
Yes.
Great lady, and so that would be a fantastic resource for you.
She just started.
It's been in existence, but she ended up buying the other owner out. And so she has a passion for it, and she loves fishers, and she loves everything about it. And so she wanted to put that passion into her writing and be the owner of the publication.
I've lived here for years, never heard of it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, Mary Beth Hoss, Hoss.
Yes, and I can send you her contact information.
Okay, that would be great. Jackie said sorry for misspelling your name. It's okay.
All right, Jackie.
Here's the thing.
You're forgiven this time.
We love our Aunt Jackie.
That's
it's
right.
Okay. It happens. We get our name spelled wrong all the time. It's part of life, right?
That's right.
Adam's brother is Eric, and it's Aric, and he gets all the time. So Curt really could be a Kurt.
I get it all the time.
Or a Curt. So yes. What is there anybody else? Sorry, got sidetracked.
Beth.
Say yes. I just always ask.
No one else really comes to mind right now. I'd say she's probably the main one. I would recommend.
Especially since it's home related.
Absolutely.
Makes me happy too. Well, Curt, I so very much appreciate it. Sorry that I somewhat probably had to stalk you to get connected to try to have you on, but I was really excited and wanted you guys on. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time and maneuvering things and being flexible with us as well. Of course, for everybody that's watching still, I'm going to get with you to get the prize to get over to the winner. If you want, go to Schoolhouse 7. Their coffee is great. And again, they have all sorts of stuff. And now they have beer and wine. Oh,
starting next week. Yes, starting next week.
So much fun. Okay. For those that are still on, next week's guest is Matt Allen. He is the co-owner of Taylor's Bakery, which is the bakery in downtown Fishers that has been here for, well, forever that I've ever known. Taylor's Bakery has been there. So we're excited about chatting with Matt. That's going to be on Thursday. We're going to go back to Thursday at 7:30. Curt, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all of our viewers, and everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate it.